You're watching Deboss Garage.
So, posted the video a little while back about my Silverado and got quite a few comments actually about, well, why don't you just build the half ton, because it's in pretty decent shape. And it's very simple. That's not my truck. That's my truck. I've had that truck for about 8-9 years already, and a lot of things happen in 8-9 years. It brought me to my job sites every day, never let me down. It was the first nice vehicle that I actually bought. I always drove junkers, old 200,000 kilometers plus trucks, painted them myself, got them going. That was my first truck that I never actually painted. Took me back and forth to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. I got to take our daughter up to the cottage in it the first time. So many good things. I got to drive a 1928 International truck for my wedding, and my wife and I drove that to pictures and that. That was the first truck behind it with a bunch of other white trucks behind it, kind of country wedding. And it's something you can't really explain. It's just plastic and rubber and steel. But we become attached to them, and all the memories in that truck. Camping, we always slept in the back of the truck, put a cap in there, and great time. I used to have a dog. Loved my dog, and he passed away a number of years ago, but he used to always ride in the back of the truck, head over the cab while I'm going down the road, riding on the toolbox, and went with me everywhere, the lumber yard to the scrap yards. Everybody in town knew him. He passed away, and his last ride was on that toolbox when I buried him, and stuff like that can't be replaced, right? So when I knew that the family was getting bigger and a couple of the issues were getting big, especially the transmission, I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? I don't wanna, 4L80s are cheap enough, but the family was getting too big, so we built the Tahoe. And I thought, well, that engine was never 100%, so we're gonna look into that. But driving it to town there to get pressure washed, I cleaned the whole thing off before I parked it and made it nicer to pull apart as well. It was sad knowing that last ride back is going to go into the shop and I'm going to rip it to pieces, almost like you know, your dog's sick and you got to take it to the vet to be put down. It's a lot of emotions with that. So I never even considered building that for my daily driver or whatever. This is my truck. I'm excited to get going on it. Laying awake at night going over my heads, the plans, the order, how am I going to do it, this and that. I got the 5.9 out of the other Dodge already. We got an issue with the shifter fork and the transfer case, so it only had 4-wheel low. Not a big deal, took a chance on that. He told me that it only had 4-wheel low when I bought it, picked it up dirt cheap. But the whole transfer case could have been grenaded too, you never know, right? But it was only shifter fork. All the gears and everything are still in one piece. We'll go over that, how to build that. And then I'm gonna start pulling the front end off of this again, because that's just that ugly Tahoe front end. And then, yeah, here we go. Now the deal was, when I bought that Dodge, is he wanted his rims and tires. But I thought I'd just put them on just to see what they look like. That is a sexy stance. I'm gonna have to talk to him about that. So when I parked the truck, I washed the outside, I didn't really clean the inside. So, ooh, a full yogurt, score! I bet there's a spoon in here. Jimmy's cup, not a winner. Score.
It's orange, but I don't think it's supposed to be that orange.
So when I was talking about AC pulley, what I did with this one is I machined the center out, and I think I put the different bearings in there. So this is the full clutch off of the Dodge. But you can see how that didn't hold up long at all. So this compressor is shot now, I think, and this pulley is shot. You can hear the bearings rolling around in there. So and you can tell it was starting to chew my belt too, which is no good. So off she goes. And the nice thing about pressing a pulley on is if you don't line up, this is a GM compressor, if it doesn't line up 100% with the rest of the belts, now a V-belt, you can be off a little bit. These 8 rib, whatever, how many ribs they are, they have to be 100%, otherwise the belt walks. So if these aren't lined up 100%, what you can do is slide your ribs over top of your clutch and line it up 100% that way. So there's a little bit of forgiveness there. So yeah, here we go. This is the brake pedal out of the Silverado, but I got to add a pedal. So this is how it mounts. Bolt goes through a little bracket up underneath the dash on the firewheel. This is the clutch pedal out of the Dodge, and I thought about trying to get a hold of a clutch pedal out of a Silverado, but before I scrapped the Dodge, I just took everything to do with the transmission out, and all I did was ream this hole out a little bit, and it will slide nicely right over top of, it's still a little hot because I did some welding on it, but that slides nicely right over top of that pedal, if you can see that. And then I've got 2 pedals side by side here. Now they do line up pretty nice there side by side. That one's down a little bit. Then I just took the aluminum bracket, I took the mounting bracket that held the clutch assembly on. I just drilled a hole with a hole saw in my firewall where it lined up with the brake pedal once it's in, and then I just cut that little mount off that holds the clutch master cylinder. You shove that in, and then just simple turn it in, lock it. Now I got my master cylinder. That ends up nicely inside there where the clutch pedal ends up, and then I'll just mount this somewhere nice so it looks like it's supposed to be there, and I've got a clutch pedal. Took a couple hours, not a big deal. I did this because I checked a couple forums. Now GM and Dodge both use the NV4500s, but I think there's a difference in the bell housing, I'm not sure, and something with the old square bodies where the master from the GM didn't have enough travel to actually move the clutch on the Dodge transmission. So rather than screw around with it, I just moved the whole pedal assembly and master and everything over. It doesn't leak, it works good, and it did on the other truck anyway. So yeah, one quick little step. It's nice flexible, so shouldn't take anything to mount that. Now the transmission is actually shorter. An NV4500 is actually shorter with a transfer case than the 4L80 by almost 2-3 inches. So that works out nice because my torsion bars are at the back there, so I can't go any farther back than what's originally there. Now this bell housing is thicker than the one from Cummins Conversion Specialist, so the transmission is quite a bit shorter because this is about 1 inch longer, and overall it's about 3 inches shorter, so that works out pretty good. Now I can measure from my engine back to where the shifter ends up, and then I can cut my hole in the floor for the shifter boot. So we're going to do that now. I'll mount the pedals real quick, and looking forward to getting this thing back on the road again. So here we go. So we're pulling our dash out of our Silverado. It's actually really easy. Tilt your steering wheel down, pull your cover off, pull the screws off that hold the dash in, unplug it at the back here, just squeeze this gray one, it pops off. The covers to the left here, they just pop in actually. They just give them a firm yank, pull on the wires back here, they come off on the little tab. Remove the screws around your radio and your heater control, pull your heater control out first. Again, gray tab unlocks it, same with this one. The radio, squeeze the blue and the gray one together and pull firmly, pull your radio out. As you get to your, this one's a hybrid, so it's got a plug for the 110 volt, but you might have an airbag control there. Same thing, just pull it off. These ducts pop right out. They are only held in by a couple of little tabs. The trickiest thing is this bar here, and once you pull these ducts out, all that's holding them in is a little tab right here, so just stick a screwdriver behind, try not to scratch it, pull them out, and then there's a little plastic white tab. If you stick your head in there, you can see it, and you want to push those in, one on each side here, and this bar slides right out. Now you just want to make sure that the bolts all the way around the outside here are out. There's 2 screws on the very outside here that come out of a Phillips head. Also on this side here. Then there's a Phillips right here and a Phillips on the other side that hold the ductwork in. Once that's done, you can take your covers off on the side there, your pillars, and just pull on an angle this way towards the camera. Then you can stick your finger back or your hand back here, just give it a little jerk like that on both sides. This bulb, all it does is just unscrew and drops out the bottom, leave it attached. This is your sensor for your daytime running lights, and then just leave that on the wiring harness. There we go. I must be doing something wrong because look at all the dust and that built up in my truck. Now let's go to a city fleet truck and look underneath the dash. And I think it looks something like this coming out of the factory. There's barely any dust on it, just a tiny bit. Everything's nice and clean. Wow. This lower section, your glove box and your ashtray, just take your bolts off along the bottom, 7mm head. There's one on the bottom of the ashtray here, and then the rest of it, these little pegs go in these holes. They hold pretty good, so give a good little yank and should pop right out. So there's ones on all of them there. So then your dash looks something like this. Okay, if you want to take this section of the dash off, you got to pull your steering wheel off. It's not that complicated. Allen keys are your best friend. There's a little hole back here. Just kind of push it in, pull on the airbag towards you. Before you do any of this, disconnect your battery, make sure it's unhooked for a good minute. Otherwise you run the risk of it blowing up in your face. Hook the other side. White goes on the left, pink goes on the right. Now this is what we're looking at. We're looking at a 21mm nut, and your horn needs to be disconnected. So push down on it, turn it counterclockwise if you can, 90 degrees. There that is, 21mm. Buzz that off. Now you need a puller to get the steering wheel off, and it's annoying because all they give you is these little slots. They don't give you any threaded holes to put a bolt through. And again, Allen keys are your friend. All I did was weld a nut to the top of an Allen and just cut it short. That way you can hook it through and then stick your puller on there. So let's see if that works. Stick the Allens through. So this is just a cheap little Ultra Pro puller. Point one Allen up, one Allen down. That usually works pretty good. There's your steering wheel. Now to get this section of the dash off, probably best to pull one of these handles off. So mine didn't have screws in the bottom, but this unit just clicks together at the back, and then your tilt button is just a clip. Just give it a gentle tug out and it should pop out. Don't break it because it's white metal, you can't fix that. Just pull it straight out, and then a T30 on the shifter handle. And I pulled a little too hard on the wire and it broke, but that's okay because I'm not using that anymore. I'm going to a manual. So. To get the dash itself off, there's 4 bolts right there that you take off. Then there's 2 on the bottom of the airbag here. You can leave the airbag right where it is, it's fine. You can just make sure it's unplugged at the back. Take the 2 bolts off of there. And I think one here and one here. And then the dash should come off. So here we go. A couple wires that run for your temperature sensors. The wire for the mirror and the light runs through here. Disconnect that. There's an ABS plug right there. Your OBD port at the bottom, and then you should be able to pull it out. It's hot in here. So the dash is out of this one. The whole wiring harness is out. I might still run the wiring for I'll probably have to do that for the mirror because it's got the compass and the airbag light in it. Everything is out from underneath here, really nice. The dash harness just plugs into the fuse panel right there, goes through the hole, and then it's just a wiper motor that you need to disconnect, and then that's it. The only difference is this hybrid has one extra plug here that runs into that funky box over there somewhere. So fenders are off, they're in good shape, rod's off. Trying to just move all the hybrid stuff over that way and just kind of focus on the engine, make sure that that is what I need, and that I can, basically I'm trying to figure out whether I can use this harness for the Mercedes or whether I should just go get a new one from Wreckers. This truck's coming along nicely. Yeah, clutch is in, so now I can start putting this dash back together again. Right now it's time to put all the tools back, clean up. I'll probably cut the hole in the floor for the shifter, find out where that goes, and then the sparks and that don't affect anything else. And then put the dash back together again. So hopefully I'll have this dash back in again by the end of today. So here we go. In 2005, they still had this old style resistor which burnt up all the time. These plugs there, mine melted before, almost. There was a recall on it, I think. In 2006, I guess, they came up with this new one. Much better system, so we're gonna throw that in this truck. Couple little modifications. I just had to add a hole in the ductwork here for the heat sensor for the automatic control, and one at the back here too. The rest of the ductwork sits right on top of here, and they all still have it. So yeah, pretty simple, straightforward. Here we go. That's it, kind of back together again. I added this wire once for this piece because that wasn't originally with the truck, but yeah, put that other dash section back on and we're getting there. Taking the door off is really easy. Two 10mm head bolts on the hinges itself. Unplug your door, which is on the dash itself there, and a plug. Pop it through the grommet that goes through the pillar, and then just lift it off the hinges and the door's off. My engine is stuck where it is in the frame. I can't move it at all because the oil pan pretty well hits the front axle. It's close. So I left the engine alone, measure from the back of the engine back to where this plate is. I cut this out of the floor of the Dodge, I'm about 15 inches. So then I can just take this plate and lay it right on here. I can go through the access hole and measure 15 inches back, make that mark right at the front there. And now I got my template to cut for the shifter housing. And then I'll have to weld that hole shut. And I like my vinyl floor, but unfortunately I got to use the carpet out of my parts truck because there's a hole where that side shifter used to be, and that's no good. So I guess we're getting carpet now. So I'll cut that out, weld that hole shut, and then I can start reassembling the dash. I just don't want any sparks in that on the dash there. So here we go. I had to move the wiring over from the headliner off of the parts truck just because the plug runs the airbag controller and the compass on the mirror. Kind of wanted to keep that. So at the same time, got to fix the headliner. Just have a couple pieces falling down. I use this Norton glue trim. Works pretty good. Basically, you just want to spray it. I'm only going to spray one side here because I got to hold the headliner with the other, but you just spray it on and just let it sit. Spray both surfaces, and then wait 3 minutes and tack it together. So got a couple pieces here. You can see I sprayed this before. Hopefully that holds together nice. I drive with the windows open too much. I'll wipe my dirty paw prints off after. It's hard to keep my hands clean because I'm sweating so much because it's so stinking hot. Here we go. So I have the wiring harness moved over from the extended cab. I got my mirror plug now. Also had an extra speaker in there, a little tweeter above my left ear, so why not? More music, better. The only thing is there's no speakers in the back of that truck, and there is in mine, so I gotta tee the wires into probably the front speakers, or maybe I'll look online, see if I can find a wiring diagram to see which ones to plug into. But you can tell that I was working in construction when I when I put this in, I found that one out of Wreckers. It was in the back of a truck, so I just grabbed it, a little sunglass holder. So I gotta tee these, or connect these wires yet, but I got drywall screws and particle board holding that in. So, but hey, it held up for a good 5 years anyway. I glued the wiring harness down with this PL Premium construction glue. It dries in about 20 minutes where it won't move, and it holds like you wouldn't believe. So go for lunch, come back, everything's nice and dry, so I'm ready to throw this back up after I connect those wires and start reassembling. So here we go. I already laid the carpet down, but seam sealed the little patch weld there and then painted the floor. Might as well, because it's starting to flake and get a little rusty. So we'll change this thing over and the one for the other side so that the seats match, plug those in, and we're laughing. Here we go. So I got the dash, everything kind of lined up where they're supposed to be again. What I did was I took the old harness laying there and just went through plug by plug and just made sure that everything was plugged in. The 06 has different airbags, so I had to move this sensor over. I got 2 plugs instead of 1 out of the old one, so it must have some sort of updated airbag, so move all that over. Now I'm ready to grab my Timmy's cups. So this cup had everything to do with securing this section on, and then this had everything to do with the top dash cover and my gauges, radio, heater control, park something or other. What does that say? If you can read that, you can come work for me. So anyway, the carpet actually looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. A lot of dirty, muddy construction sites that this truck's been to, so the vinyl worked for that. But yeah, that cover's nice there, and I got a hole here for my shifter cover soon, so looking forward to that. Here we go.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you love the channel, consider picking up a tape boss to make those projects go faster so you got more time to watch YouTube. And remember, if you're not filthy, you're not rich.